What is up, and welcome back to another episode of Blood and Beer, the show where we talk blood sport and we drink beer. I'm your host, Matt, and as always, we've got some MMA to talk. We've got some bare knuckle. We had PFL, Road to Dubai Champion Series. We had Knucklemania 5 over the weekend, and GFL, the Global Fight League, had their inaugural draft, and we're going to go over all that in just a moment. First, the beer we're sipping on coming to us from the Root plant. Looks like it might be German. It's the Kutztown Root Beer. Absolutely marvelous. Made with pure cane sugar. Definitely the best root beer we've had on the show. Might be the best beer we've had on the show. I don't know if root beer falls into that beer category or not, but best taste and substance so far. Yeah, we'll just jump right in. We're going to kick things off with PFL's Road to Dubai Champion Series. The card was meh. It was a one-fight card. We had Paul Hughes versus Usman Nurmagomedov for the now defunct Bellator title. And Paul Hughes came into this thing as a 7-1 dog, and he went out there, and it was a 50-50 fight the whole time. I had Usman win 4-1, but this fight was just back and forth. Usman, I thought, clearly took round 1. Round 2, it was a lot closer. Paul Hughes was working the body, just beautiful body shots on the clinch, and really tiring Usman out. Usman was looking pretty exhausted. In round 3, Usman landed a series of nut shots on Paul Hughes that dropped Hughes, had him down, and it caused Mike Beltran to take a point from Usman. Usman still probably won the round, so it was 9-9 there. We're looking at a 28-28 going into round 4. Round 4, Hughes was really cracking Usman, beating his ass pretty much the whole round. I thought Usman would have some moments, but at the end of the round, Usman took him down and held him down for a minute, didn't do any damage. Paul Hughes won that round. So really, I might have had it 2-3. It should have been a draw probably, but each round was so close. It was just such a competitive fight. These guys were going back and forth. And in that 4th round, there was a headbutt when Paul Hughes was really getting momentum, and it drops Usman, had him really badly wobbled. And after they pay him to Usman, they go back over to Paul Hughes, where you just see blood trailing down his face, and wipes it. Cult icon, huge for Irish MMA. He ends up losing a majority decision. It was 47-47, 48-46, 48-46. Can't hate how it scored either way, but this is definitely best case scenario for PFL. I mean, they had a terrible 2024. They didn't know what they were. Going into 2025, they wrapped the year up by really narrowing down their product, getting rid of some of the junk, trimming the fat, if you will. And this was the best fight they could have put on. This is the best fight that they have ever put on in PFL as far as the high level, the technical ability, and it just being back and forth. So yeah, Usman retains the belt. That doesn't mean anything, but this guy's definitely top 20 lightweight around the world. Might be a top 20 pound for pound. He's a beast. He's the heir apparent to Islam Makhachev at the lightweight division. He's just waiting for Islam to get out of his way over in UFC for him to come over. But while we wait for that to happen, what's next for both these guys? Usman's pretty much cleared out the division. He's fought everybody at 155 except for AJ McKee that's worth anything over in PFL. But the problem is AJ McKee's coming off a loss. He hasn't looked great as of late. And Paul Hughes, he's beat AJ McKee. That's the only guy he's fought. The only other real option for him at lightweight is maybe, I think Brent Primus retired. So you're looking at Alexander Shabley. You're looking at Brett Johns, maybe. Other than that, you don't have a lot at lightweight for Paul Hughes. If he enters the tournament, he's going to be the odds-on favorite, especially after that performance. He's not going to be an underdog 7-1 like he was ever again when he faced Usman Nurmagomedov. But I think what PFL needs to do in about 4 or 5 months, they need to run this fight back. Have a rematch. They're clearly the best 2 lightweights they have. It was a fun fight. And best case scenario, if the dice keep rolling, the cookie keeps crumbling the PFL's way, Paul Hughes wins and you got a trilogy. And then that gives Usman something to do while he's waiting for Islam to finish up over here in the UFC. So Usman can head on over and be the new lightweight champ, because that's just what they do over in Dagestan. And then also on that card, you had Vadim Nemkov. He took on Tim Johnson, and it was a 3-minute submission, nothing special, and then you wouldn't have known a single other name on the card. I mean, it was a really barren card, but it was they're not a super deep league. If they could do 2 or 3 super fight cards a year, or they could do cards like this where you have a great main event and then just some kind of filler that might have good fights. That's how you're going to build your promotion, because maybe people will start following these filler guys. Maybe these guys will end up being prospects. But right now, best case scenario for PFL. What a start to 2025. I've been super critical of the promotion, and things are looking good for them. Now we're going to move on to a different sport. Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship had their 5th Knucklemania this weekend. It was headlined by Eddie Alvarez versus Jeremey Stephens, and that was a war for as long as it lasted. In round one, Alvarez is really catching Stephens. Stephens is just eating the punches. He's not really damaged, but it's touching him. It's touching him big. Round 2, it's back and forth. It's about 50-50. Both guys are cracking, just landing mean shots. But by round 3, Stephens found Eddie's number. He's dropping him. He gets a knockdown. Eddie gets right back up, keeps fighting, but then Stephens gets a second knockdown, and you can kind of see it in Eddie's eyes. He just doesn't want to be there. You could see it. He looks up, and he's like, shit, I can fight. I don't want to fight. But he keeps going, goes back to the corner. The corner waves it off. Just today, they showed the x-rays. Eddie Alvarez showed his x-ray. Clean break right on the jaw. So in his last two bare knuckle fights, one with Mike Perry, this one with Jeremey Stephens, Eddie Alvarez has had his face broken. First it was the orbital, this time it's the jaw. So dude's a stud. They put on a hell of a performance, and everything BKFC does is fun because it doesn't have to have a big name for you to want to watch it. It's just fun-ass fights. Like the first fight of the night, it was, what's this guy's name? Let me get it here. Itzo Babalidze versus Brian McDowell. Wasn't a knockdown. Wasn't a knockout. One of the only non-knockout fights of the night. But this fight was fucking awesome. It kicked things off. And these guys, there were 7 total knockdowns across the whole fight. Ends up going to the scorecards. Babalidze takes it. But I mean, it would be Babalidze gets a knockdown, and then McDowell would be on the retreat after the count. He's getting beat up, and he throws a counter, drops Babalidze, and then McDowell's on the attack. Babalidze counters him. It was just back and forth. It was a fun-ass fight. But yeah, back to the Jeremey Stephens, Eddie Alvarez, before I get ahead of myself. After the fight, Conor McGregor grabs the mic. You know, he's a co-owner in BKFC. He gives his old famous, "Who the fuck is that guy?" Because that's who it was about, was Jeremey Stephens. And he faces off with him in the ring. He tells him, give me a date. He tells Feldman it's happening. It's not fucking happening because he's still under contract with UFC, and he's not going to be able to get those fights to just go away. UFC's not going to release him. But if he does, that would be fun. It would be funny as hell to see Jeremey Stephens beat the shit out of Conor McGregor, because all the shit that McGregor put him through, that press conference that made Stephens famous in all the wrong ways, that would be good justice for him. But McGregor probably fucking kills that guy in a boxing match, bare knuckle or regular. But then in the co-main event, we had Big Ben Rothwell, take on Mick Terrell. He was challenging for the heavyweight championship, and he got a 36-second knockout. Just absolutely flatlines the guy. Becomes the world heavyweight champion of BKFC after being a cult hero in UFC, going undefeated over in I think it was the IFL. Guy's legit. He's a beast. He's tough. He's going to be a tough guy to beat, too, because he's 275 pounds. That's the absolute limit for BKFC heavyweights. So, yeah, Big Ben Rothwell gets it done. And then finally, Beth Rawlings? I think it's Beth Rawlings. She beat Taylor Starling. People were real hyped about this matchup. I don't know why. I couldn't have cared less, but she beat her. So there's the last big one of the card for that. And now we're going to be moving on to the GFL draft. They had their inaugural draft this weekend, Friday night. It was kind of a fucking nightmare. They had some cool things, cool moments. I'm along with everybody else in MMA media. I am not confident that this fight gets off the ground, or that this promotion gets off the ground. I don't know if they'll have one promotional event. I don't know if they'll have one and then abandon it, because the names on this, you're going to have to pay these motherfuckers a lot of money. You got Luke Rockhold, Chris Weidman, you got JDS, you got Vanderlei Silva as a coach, Fabricio Verdum, Tyron Woodley, Sage Northcutt, all these high-dollar names that aren't going to be giving you much. Derek Brunson's on there. I mean, it was a mess, but we'll kick things off. First thing, it wasn't a draft. They had the teams pre-decided. They just pretended it was a draft by having the CEO, Darren Owens, walk in front of a green screen with a map behind him and say who picked who. But that's not how it happened. First overall pick was Tyron Woodley, and there's no fucking way in hell anybody that's picking teams with the lineup that they had to choose from is picking Tyron Woodley. They had Damir Ismagulov. He was on there. That dude was going to be number one pick without a doubt. Sage Northcutt, he's in there. He's still young. That's justifiable. He was the number 2 overall pick. You had Gegard Mousasi go 3. The whole thing was just a mess, though. After the second pick of the draft, they accidentally showed the full draft board that showed all the teams, so you knew where everybody was going. About an hour and a half into the production, only 4 rounds were through. So what they do, they moved to three picks at a time, and they did that once. And then after the 3 picks at a time, they're like, all right, here's the rest of the draft board. Everybody's already done drafting. This is what we got. So it wasn't a draft at all. They had the teams predetermined, and if you look at the teams, Sao Paulo's mainly Brazilians. Dubai, that's mainly Russians and people from the Middle East. You got LA, a lot of fighters from LA and Vegas on that team. Miami, it's got the Florida guys. New York's got the New York guys and the East Coast guys. London, all the UK fighters. I mean, it was so obviously not a draft. Why do you want to do this league if you don't really want to do this league? You just want to have the facade of doing the league. And it really bugs me because I wanted this to work. I can already tell it's not going to, but I had some suspicions that this promotion was just a money grab from the moment I heard Darren Owens on Ariel Helwani's show say that they've got a Silicon Valley investor. That's where the money's coming from. Immediately my head goes, okay, you're just taking this dude's money. You're throwing a salary down for you, and you're making this big fake promotion so you can look like you're doing something. You're not. You know it's going to fail. You're just taking the money. You're guaranteeing yourself a salary and a severance, and that's really what it seems like happened here. I did not like it. Now, one thing I did like, I thought Brendan Schaub and Mike Goldberg were awesome on the desk. What's the guy's name? Robin Black, I think, Robin Black. I want to say it was the other guy. He did okay. He was good. Pink suit dude. The production value from the desk was not bad. And I like that they weren't afraid to mention UFC and Bellator and other promotions and what accomplishments people have from those promotions, and not just saying, yeah, this guy was a UFC champion, but they would actually go back and be like, you remember when he beat this guy or when he fought this guy, and that, they fought in this promotion, that could lead to rivalry here, complete the trilogy, that kind of thing. But man, these teams, I feel messy even talking about it because it was ugly to watch, and then the more you look at it, the worse it gets because it was a fake draft. The drafting was done by the CEO in front of a green screen when the rest of the production looked like it was ESPN level production. So my takeaways from this promotion might have one event. I'm putting the over-under at 0.5, and I'm going under, though. I don't think they're even getting an event off the ground. They still haven't announced their schedule yet, which is supposed to come out in February, so we can see, but why wouldn't you put your schedule out unless you know that you're going to have interest? It's not looking good for them. They were saying all night on the desk that they're number 1 trending thing on Twitter, but I feel like the trend was like, oh my God, can you believe this GFL draft? It's not good. I don't like the league owning every team and determining the teams in advance. You don't tell us there's going to be a draft if you're not going to have a draft. Just say, hey, we evenly separated these guys based on their region, based on their skill set, and we made teams. I'm not going to hate that if you tell me that's what you did for the first season because it's hard to fucking draft when you own every team. But I don't like GFL owning every team and just making the teams whatever they want and trying to, throw fucking flowers in our face and say, hey, it's a draft. No, it's not a draft. You just wanted it to look like a draft. It was kind of a slap in the face of the fans. I don't know. Not a fan. There's no team names, no mascots. It's just Team Dubai, Team Miami, Team LA, Team New York. Just what are we doing? What are we doing? I don't know. And then they had this rap song. Clearly AI generated. Absolute shit. The music video was terrible. The song was terrible. And they played it about 30 fucking times over the 2-hour broadcast. It just seems like they're so out of touch. So I'm going to just leave the GFL right there. If any more news comes out about it, if they actually have an event that's going to kick off, by all means, I'm covering it. I can't wait to see Tony Ferguson fucking fight Sage Northcutt. Whatever. I can wait for that. I was being sarcastic. I could wait to see any of these motherfuckers fight. But the last thing I'll leave you with is they had about 13 gaffes on the graphics where they would either show the wrong list of achievements, they would show incorrect information, they would show another fighter's list of achievements, the whole 9 yards. I mean, they had they had a middleweight on there, and they said the middleweight defeated Cain Velasquez in 38 seconds. Never happened. Whatever. They also had I can't even remember his name, but the winner of the Ultimate Fighter 6. The winner of Ultimate Fighter 6 announced a pick for Dubai, I think. Well, the graphic said 6-time UFC champion. When you see that, you're like, whoa, I've never even fucking heard this name before. Or I don't remember this name. So it's just, they don't have MMA fans working on it, because if they did, they would see that immediately and be like, that's not fucking right. So they don't have MMA people working on it. They don't have their heart in it. The song's terrible, clearly AI generated. The music video is AI generated as well. It's just junk. It's a rinky-dink promotion. It's trash. I don't love it. I don't like it. That's it. It's ugly. It's a terrible promotion. That's all I got to say about it. I don't know what else I could rant about, because, it's just burying. I don't want to bury it before it comes out. I'd like for it to fucking work, but it's not going to. So that's what we have around the combat sports world for you. I appreciate you tuning in. I'll leave you with one last little tidbit. If you still follow One Championship MMA, Fabricio Andrade, the Wonder Kid, he went out and defended his bantamweight title over there in about 35 seconds or 40 seconds. He gets a knockout with a body shot and then followed up by ground and pound. Dude's an absolute beast. Once One Championship's MMA league completely folds, he's going to be a great addition to the UFC. This Fabricio Andrade guy, I think he's probably 27 or 28 now, but he's been on an absolute tear. He beat John Lineker. He was just destroying everybody up to that point. He has vicious Muay Thai. He's got good takedown defense. Dude's a stud. He's young. Can't wait to see him come over, but we got to wait for One Championship to close. But that's all I got for you. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Until next time, we're going to be previewing UFC Saudi Arabia, Adesanya versus Imavov on our next episode. But thank you for tuning in. I'm Matt with Blood and Beer.